Hey, Control. Thanks for letting me help with the pinup this week.
You have the Mega Man reference pictures, kid?
Right here. Check him out.
So you don't know who Mega Man is, clearly.
No, you told me. Robot with a human face and a cannon arm from the 80s. There are lots of different versions too, just like you said.
And I said his name is Megatron, did I?
Yup. Oh, wait, you said Mega Man.
Exactly 8 seconds ago, yes.
He kinda looks like something you would draw.
Whatever. Did you at least find me a good picture of Rush?
Oh, right here.
Thanks. Perfect. Greetings all, my name is Kontrol. I'm a professional artist, a huge fan of classic Marvel and DC Comics, and an early graduate from the school of Capcom. Meaning, my introduction to their games goes all the way back to the original Nintendo Entertainment System. In case you're visiting from the mining planet of Korgonia, Capcom is the super successful Japanese game developer / publisher responsible for some of the most successful game franchises of all time. Legendary series like Street Fighter, Resident Evil, Darkstalkers, Devil May Cry, Monster Hunter, Dead Rising.
Wait, Darkstalkers? What's that?
It's a 2D fighting game and one of the best ever. I can't believe you've never heard.
Wow, Control, could you get a little more obscure? Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm almost finished Midnight Wanderers.
My first experience with Capcom was a pretty brutal one. I was gifted a copy of Ghosts and Goblins from a relative who explained it was a must-have game for my 8-bit NES. A game so brutally hard, I literally thought something was wrong with it. Clearly this Capcom didn't expect human beings to actually play this thing, right? Well, yeah, they did. Games were few and far between in those days, so I stuck with it to the point of obsession. So much so that I ended up completely ignoring Mega Man. Capcom's other side-scrolling shooting game? It seemed popular enough, but I thought it looked bland. Also, Mega Man couldn't duck. Something a very young gamer coming off an eternity of Super Mario and Arthur the Knight had trouble grasping. So, Mega Man back then was always a game series on the periphery of my player experience. I never got up to speed with the early games in the series, right up through the X versions on Super Nintendo. In fact, for a long time I associated Mega Man squarely with the TV show, Captain N, the Game Master, where he was a featured character, along with Simon Belmont and Kid Icarus. See, they all joined forces with a human teenager and this dog who got sucked into his TV while playing Mike Tyson Punch-Out. Their mission was rescuing Videoland from the Metroid Mother Brain who enslaved...
You asked me to intervene when you veered off into Saturday morning cartoon tangents?
Right. Sorry. Growing up, Saturday morning cartoons were my life. So, a little background on the birth of Mega Man. Go, IGN!
The original concept was just to fight it out against different bosses in whatever order you liked. The plan was to make a new type of action game that had never existed before. But then, as high-capacity cartridges came out, they suddenly had more data to work with. The concept evolved, and they added the idea of including different levels as well.
At the time, it was still early in the history of video games, and there were quite a lot of games where you had to follow the linear route set out by the developers. But with Mega Man, you could select stages in any order you liked, which was amazing.
At its core, it has always had the unique gameplay feature of being able to choose your own order for the stages.
And this had an impact on the stages that led up to the boss fight.
Your choices drastically changed the difficulty of the game. That was a new experience, which no other games had up until then.
Now, if there was something called YouTube in the mid-80s, and I decided to start a channel based around drawing game characters, I'd be faced with an interesting challenge. For one, this is what my art looked like back then.
Like and subscribe, bitch.
But more importantly, I'd have to translate tiny blocky sprite-based figures into drawings with recognizable features. Much of the character details would have to be conjured up on the fly to make a satisfying and recognizable interpretation. Which brings me to one of the more notorious qualities of the original North American release of the first Mega Man. It's box art.
What the hell happened?
Nobody knows. I would guess that someone in charge of packaging completely forgot they needed artwork for the box. With 2 hours to go before printing, they had their 12-year-old brother grab some magic markers and frantically put something, anything, together.
It's just awful.
Mello, we do not criticize other artists on this channel. But, Jesus Christ. This is like serving filet mignon on a paper plate. Where is the love, Capcom? Anyway, the box art fail was so spectacular, Capcom actually made the box art version of Mega Man into an actual character who appears in Street Fighter X Tekken. It got much better, of course. I mean, how could it not? The artist for Mega Man 2 seems to have gotten a glimpse of the character before putting George Reeves' head on the body of a chubby woman. He's using a pistol again, which is kind of revealing about how complicated it was in those days to communicate visual details without an internet. By Mega Man 3, we finally got something close to the aesthetic Capcom finally settled on, including the first appearance of Rush, Mega Man's robot doggy. He's since undergone a serious injection of anime, making him kind of a modern-day Astro Boy. Now, I decided to draw Mega Man after seeing a video by sedatoezgen. I hope I said that right. It was my first attempt. Check out his channel. There are obviously several ways to go when drawing Mega Man. The character has evolved quite a bit over a career that's included many cartoons and guest appearances. I settled on the most recent incarnation from Mega Man 11. The game looks like it neatly refines the original core concept, so I decided it was probably the definitive take on the character for 2020. What's great about this version of Mega Man is how the artist didn't feel the need to clutter up his basic design with endless fancy details. Mega Man's entire form probably uses fewer polygons than one of Doom Guy's gloves. Mega Man is an example of sleek, confident design, which of course meant I had to add some fancy details on my own. I'm sorry, but my OCD requires things to be a little flashy. Thus, Mega Man's connected to a bunch of wires while looking somewhat distressed. At least Rush is posing for the camera. I do hope you're happy with the results, though. That's all that actually matters here. If this video meets with your approval, do me a solid and hit the like button on your way out. Absolutely subscribe and tour the channel, as there's plenty more where this came from. And let me know in the comments if you ever played a game or multiple games in this series. Digital Foundry gave a rave review to Mega Man 11, and I'm thinking about jumping in.